So for this morning's class, we're going to focus on building shifts and schedule rotations.
All right.
And just before we get started, can you give me just a basic idea as to how your schedules are structured, like 8, 10, or 12-hour shifts?
Well, we have a patrol division that's going to be working 4 on, 4 off, 12 hours.
Okay.
And we have a detective bureau and traffic that's going to be working 5 to 8-hour days.
So they're almost exclusively Monday through Friday type schedules?
For the detective bureau and traffic, yes, although there are some Saturdays.
There are some Saturdays. And are those part of the base schedule? Like there's just some people that always work Saturdays?
Yeah, it'll rotate monthly. They'll be off Sunday, Monday that particular month.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by building our shifts. And so if you look at my screen, I have it loaded up. You'll notice that I have 12-hour schedules in my department here. I have my day shift up top, my night shift over to the right. I have a detective bureau schedule. I even have a shift where my on-call detectives can be displayed.
Okay.
And I have multiple squads, 4 to be exact, but I don't have a day shift for each squad. It basically comes down to navigating to the right date to see the squad that's on duty on that particular day or on that particular night shift. So we're going to keep things simple. We're going to create a day and a night shift for patrol. We'll create traffic shifts, detective bureau shifts. We'll create an admin shift as well. I imagine you'll need one of those. And anything else you might need in your department, like records or any other group that I may have not mentioned.
Okay. Dispatchers.
Okay. Now, once we're done building the shifts, we're then going to focus on creating the schedule rotations. The schedule rotation is what will determine what days a particular person is working. So what we'll do is we'll take like a squad, for instance, and we're going to determine the start date of their schedule rotation. And the start date will just be the first working day in that pattern that we're about to create. Like you said, 4 on, 4 off. So that is the focus of today's class. Now, at this stage, you are not going to have the dashboard like I have. You're going to learn how to create that in your next online class. That's class number 4.
Okay.
So if you're looking at your window here, where I'm circling my mouse around it, it might appear blank, and that's completely normal for where you guys are at this process.
Okay.
Okay. So let's get started. Let's click on the Administration drop-down menu, and we're going to click on the Shift Center.
All right.
And we're going to select the last screen here on the list, which is called Setup Shifts.
Okay.
And you'll notice I already have a few shifts already entered into my system, but we're going to create a admin shift, and we're also going to create a day shift, because I pretty much have everything else.
All right.
Now, just looking at my night shift as an example, we're just going to talk about the required fields that you have to fill out whenever you create a shift. And over on the right, you'll notice those fields are displayed in red. And we have a shift code, which I labeled as PD nights.
Okay.
And the reason why I did that is because I might have a communications night shift as well.
Gotcha.
So if you only have one night shift to worry about, you're free to call it just that, night. Now, just before we continue, I just wanted to let you know I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure if you're feeling that too. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mute the microphone if it's okay with you, and then what I'll do is in between the screens I'll open up the mics, or if you'd like to send me a question, you can do so using the chat option under Go To Training, if that's okay.
No, you could go ahead and mute it. I don't really hear anything, but that's okay.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay, so where we left off, we have our shift code. We have the description for the shift, and just a little bit more about those codes and the descriptions. When I click on something like my weekly schedule, and we'll allow that a moment to load up, this is where I'm using the code. See, PD nights, PB records, and that is specifically under the weekly schedule views where we may not have as much space to display the entire shift name, so we abbreviate it using that. Now I also just wanted to go back here to the daily schedule. And you'll notice on the top left of each block is the description name. So whatever you choose to use as your description is what will appear on the top left portion of the daily schedule block. Now, although it is not a required field, I would definitely recommend using the abbreviation. And I'm going to just take a moment here to show you guys your web portal, or what your web portal will look like. Now, this is the web-based version of the scheduling system that most of your officers will probably end up using for their day-to-day scheduling needs. So if I was to look at my monthly schedule, you'll notice I have ends here for nights. So because of the limited amount of space I have whenever I'm displaying a monthly schedule, what we're doing is we're using the abbreviation for N to display or indicate a working day. Okay. So if you have 4 patrol shifts, now you mentioned that they work 12-hour schedules, so everyone is working days and nights?
Yes. Okay.
So the guys that are working today, like right now, what group or squad is that?
We're going to have, we're just going to call it, we can either call it Squad A, B, C, D, or we can call it by the lieutenant's name because they work for a particular lieutenant.
I understand. You know, what I would consider doing is using something like a Squad A through D as the shift code, and in the description you could say something like Squad A Smith, or whoever the lieutenant of Squad A is.
Gotcha.
And so that's for 2 reasons. Number one, if and when that lieutenant moves on or retires, it's easier just to change the description name than changing the code. The code, it's not impossible to do, but it's a little harder to do.
All right. Very good.
The second reason why is if we ever have a situation where, I don't know, would these lieutenants ever swap shifts with one another, even if it's just temporary?
They shouldn't, no.
They shouldn't. Okay. So I'm not then so much concerned about that second scenario, but, you know, if remember, though, that your groups were created in a previous screen. So let's just take a step back here. At some point, you created groups like what I have here, squads A, B, C, and D. I would consider putting the lieutenant's name here, okay, because the shift themselves is not tied to any specific group. So what are the, do the squads rotate from days to nights, or are they steady days and nights?
They're going to be rotating.
But not often.
But like once a month or every 2 months, depending when they're in the process of changing the actual schedule. So we're going to use this starting in January. It's my understanding when that goes live.
I understand. So if I'm in squad A, I will end up working days and nights throughout, like maybe like a 28-day rotation or something.
No, they're going to stay on the same hours for at least 28 days.
I understand. So there's going to be, I'm assuming then, 2 squads that are going to be working days at any given time. Is that that accurate? Okay. So notice I only have 1 night shift, and I'm only going to have 1 day shift. I'm not going to have a day shift for each squad. Right? Because it doesn't matter what squad I'm in. If I'm working days, that's the same, 07 to 1900 block that the other guy is going to work. So we do not want to include anything about a specific squad at this stage. Your squads should be created under the setup group section, which is one of the first screens that you guys set up in your first online class.
Yeah, this is actually our first online class. We were told to take this one first. I did some preliminary work with this the other day and set up groups like you said, squad A, B, C, D, and I labeled them like you suggested.
Okay.
Also.
Okay, and that's okay. You can absolutely take the classes in slightly different order if necessary. So just sort of moving on with our original example here, after I put in my abbreviation, N for nights would be fine, I'm going to enter the start and the end times for that shift. Now, for your 12-hour schedules, it's easy because everyone will probably end up working those set hours each and every time. So enter the start and end time. The number of hours will be automatically calculated for you.
No, it's okay. Okay.
And at the very bottom, you're going to look for the Validate Minimum Staffing Levels option. So if you are planning on setting a minimum amount of people that you need working on any given night shift, just click on the Yes button.
All right.
And we're not going to actually enter what those rules are yet. That comes later. That's actually done in class number 6. You will learn how to create the skill sets that you want to track, whether you need a certain amount of supervisors, a certain amount of officers, a certain amount of, dispatchers, whatever the skill set is. And then for each one, you will be able to determine how many people you need. And you can even do that by day of the week. So it's pretty flexible.
All right.
Now, over on the left, you'll see a checkbox marked Shift Starts on current day. Now, are your day shifts 7 to 19 and then 19 to 07 for the nights?
Yes.
Okay. So the guys that are working tonight's schedule, now being December 5th, the guys working tonight, are they technically working December 5th's schedule as far as?
Technically working for the 6th.
They're actually, I understand. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend that you unmark that checkbox when you create your night shift. And what that means is it's basically saying, listen, when I look at the block 1900 to 0700, because it's overlapping midnight, or it's overlapping 2 days essentially, the system needs to know what you consider to be the official working day. So by leaving it unmarked, you're saying, no, the guys that are working tonight at 7 p.m., they're actually working the 6th schedule.
Okay.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and mute the mic. Again, please feel free to send me any questions through the chat, but it seems like the feedback actually intensified a bit on my side. Okay, so now that we have an idea as to what the required fields are, let's create a brand new shift. Let's click on the New button up top. And I'm going to call this one my admin shift. I can write out administration under the description, if I can only spell it right. There you go. And here I might use A for admin as the abbreviation. And for the start and end time, for this example, I'm going to use 08 to 1600. Now, in the event that you have several people in admin that might work different hours, maybe this guy works 7 to 3, this one works 8 to 4, someone else works 9 to 5, consider only creating one shift. Choose one set of hours, preferably the one that is most commonly worked. Because when it comes time to assign people to the schedules, you will be able to provide them with their own work hours. So every time you create a shift, you're going to take up another block of space on that daily schedule. You know, if you have someone working 8 to 4, someone working 7 to 3, someone working something else, if you create 3 separate shifts for that, now you're going to have to set aside 3 blocks somewhere on your daily schedule to display that information. And each of those shifts might only have a handful of people in there. So try to just get away with creating a generic admin shift if you can. Now, at the very bottom, I'm not going to validate minimum staffing levels. I do not have to worry about shift starts on current day because this shift does not overlap 2 days. So if I'm assigned to 08 to 1600 today, well, I'm just working December 5th schedule. There's just no two ways about that. Let's click on the Save button, and our admin schedule is added to the left. I'm going to create one more. That's going to be my day shift. I'll use D for the abbreviation and enter my times. Now, in the event that, you know, although most people are going to work 07 to 1900 when they're on the day shift, if you have a sergeant or a lieutenant whose work hours maybe are shifted 1 hour earlier, maybe they're doing roll call, they're doing whatever they need to do to manage their shifts, you know, again, consider just creating the generic day shift because you can always adjust someone's work hours And if that was the case, let's say my sergeant on the day shift will just have his adjusted hours displayed to the right of his name. At the very bottom, shift starts on current day. That's fine. There's really no other day that it could that could be considered as the work day. But at the very bottom, I do want to click yes because I do plan on tracking minimum staffing levels for that shift. Let's click on the Save button, and we're done. So you're going to repeat this process until you have a shift for every department or group within your agency. A record shift, a traffic shift, a detective bureau shift, like I have here. Now, I would suggest, if you plan on handling training assignments through the scheduling system, I would consider creating a generic training shift. And for mine, I left the start and end time set to 0. And the reason why I have this is in the event that I am assigning someone to a training class on what is their regular day off, you can use that shift to place that officer under so that they're not being displayed along with their day shift guys. Right, so if I have an officer on a regular day off and he's going to be training from 08 to 1600, it might be a little confusing to assign him to the standard day shift. It might work a little better to just create a standard training shift that we can place somewhere on our dashboard. Now that's it for creating shifts. Our next step is to create schedule rotations. But before we do that, let me just open up the mics. Are there any questions on creating a shift?
No, I was just finishing up the training piece, training shift.
Okay. So before we get into the rotations, you mentioned these are 4 on, 4 off schedules, and you're saying that these guys will be assigned steadily to either days or nights for, I think you said a month. Is that correct?
Yeah, right now it'll be a month, 28 days.
I understand. Okay, so so
right now we're not working 12-hour shifts at this moment. We're going to that in January.
Gotcha.
So that's why we don't know whether or not it's going to be decided after doing a trial basis period for 6 months, whether the rotation will be every 28 days or they extend it for maybe 3 months to change it. We don't know yet.
I understand. Okay, so on January 1st, or around January 1st, each squad is gonna work 4 on, 4 off for a 28-day cycle, and then the potential is for them to then switch over into nights for another 28-day period?
Correct.
Yes. Or longer.
Or longer. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to build a schedule rotation based on that assumption. And the thing with the schedule rotation is that the system is asking you to develop a pattern. So until we know what it truly is, I'm just going to show you how to build one from scratch. Let's close out of the setup shift screen. I'm going to just mute the mic again. And this time, we're going to click on Build Schedule at the very top of the screen. We're going to select Update Rotations. And you'll see that I already have a list of schedule rotations in my system. And if I was to just click on my Squad B as an example, what we're looking for is a two-part code. And for the first part of the code, I like to use the abbreviation for the squad or the abbreviation for the department or division that the schedule belongs to, like REC for records. Over to the right, just a very, very brief description about that particular squad. So again, I'm using SQB and Squad B, whereas for records, I'm using REC for records and then Monday through Friday. And I'm doing that because maybe I probably won't need more than one Squad A rotation, right? Because it's the same schedule for everyone that's on it. Whereas with records or admin, I might have one guy that works Monday through Friday. Might have someone that works Monday through Thursday. So that's why I like to use the first part of the code for the division or the department, and over on the right, a brief description as to whether that's a Monday through Friday schedule, a Monday through Thursday, or whatever it might be. So just sticking with my Squad B, I then have just a plain description, a start date, which will determine the starting date of the pattern that I'm about to create below. The end date is not how long I'm going to schedule someone for. That is how long the template is available for me to use. In the section below, I have the actual work pattern itself. So this is a sort of like a Pitman type schedule where it's just 2 on, 2 off, 3 on, 2 off, 2 on, and 3 off. And then to the right is the shift that each cycle is running through. In other words, this schedule rotation beginning on January 4th will have the person in Squad B working Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, back on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, off Monday, Tuesday. And so that cycle just repeats itself. So we're going to create a very simple rotation. You're going to use this one for some of your admin guys and some of your detective bureau guys, maybe even some of your traffic people. But my example here is going to be an admin schedule. So I'll use the abbreviation for that department. This is going to be a Monday through Friday schedule. And here under the description, I have a little bit more character length to work with, so I can just write out administration Monday through Friday. In the section below that, I'm going to select the date. Now, the further back you go, the further back you'll be able to assign someone to the schedule. So if I was to choose October 3rd, for instance, that is the earliest that I will be able to assign anyone to that rotation. Since you guys seem to be going live on January 1st, well, you can choose maybe the first, maybe I can choose the last, when's the first Monday? It's the 2nd. So you can do it that way, or you can do it December 26th, as long as it's a Monday. you're in good shape. Okay. So you said it would be January 15th. So because for an admin schedule, you guys would be off, then you would choose January 16th as the start date, because you can't choose an off day as your start date. Next, you're going to enter your end date. Now, as a general rule, I'd like to build these out just for a couple of years. Again, you are not assigning the person to the schedule for 3 or 4 years. You're just making that template available so that you can assign somebody. Now, at the very bottom, you're going to enter the work pattern. 5 days on, beginning on January 16th. 2 days off, there's your Saturday and Sunday. And then you're going to tie it to the shift. Now, this rotation is easy. It's just an ongoing 5 and 2. But if it was a somewhat more complicated schedule, you can click on View Sample before you save it. So this calendar view will show you if you got the pattern right. So I'll switch over to 2017, and as you can see, beginning on January 16th, anyone placed on that schedule would just be working a straight up Monday through Friday admin shift. Now, of course, that pattern looks good. It's simple. So our final step will be to click on the Save button over on the left and just give the system a few seconds to save the rotation. Once it's saved, it will be displayed to the left of the screen. Okay, the save and build has been finished. Let's click on the OK button. And there's our Monday through Friday schedule. As you can see, I have another one just below it that's a Tuesday through Friday schedule. So there I had to start it on a Tuesday, and below it was 4 days on, 3 days off, tied to the admin shift. Let's try one more example. This time we're going to use the 4 and 4 rotation. Let's click on the New button once again. At the very top, I'm going to use this to create my Squad A schedule. Now, because there is only one Squad A, I may not necessarily use that second part of the code to determine the work days. That's going to be determined by the squad itself. And I just saw your question on the DB guys. Absolutely. So if you have a guy who's working Tuesday through Saturday, then you just have to make sure that the start date falls on a Tuesday. The work pattern will still be 5 and 2, I'm assuming. And you're going to tie that to the Detective Bureau shift under the Shift 1 column right here. But you're absolutely right. So for my Squad A, once again, I'll put in a description, and I probably don't need more than that for the description. And under the start date, this is where you're going to have to determine when the 4 and 4 begins. So you mentioned January 16th as being the start date. Well, the way our rotations are built, not everyone can have a start date of January 16th. So if Squad A is working days and Squad B is working nights of the same day, they might have the same start date, but your squad C and D have to start, I'm assuming, 4 days later. So let's use the 16th as the start date for squad A. Again, I am going to build that out until 2020. And in the section below, I'm going to enter the pattern 4 days on, 4 days off, and I'm going to tie that to the day shift. Now, you guys are doing a 28-day cycle. So let's see how we can work that out. So that's a 24-day cycle. So there's the 28th with the 4 days off included in there. Now, if I just stopped right there and I viewed the sample, let's switch over to 2017 because that's when the effective date of the schedule rotation was. This is what it would look like. So this would be just a full-on 4 and 4. And in fact, I could have done that with one line because it just would have repeated itself. But let's switch things up now. Let's put in another 28 days, but this time we're going to indicate the night shift. So let's view on the sample again. Always remembering to switch over to 2017. And there's your pattern. So there is the 4 weeks on days, 4 weeks on nights, and then it just repeats the cycle over and over again. Let's save that. And this one might take a little longer to save because there's more information in the rotation, so it might just take a couple seconds longer. Okay. Let's click on the OK button. Squad A is now added in there. And just to help keep things organized, let me get rid of my sample squads. So I have the Squad A schedule all set. So if Squad B is working the same days but the opposite shifts, try doing this. Go into the Squad A schedule you built, just rename the codes, rename the description, and at the very bottom, swap the days for nights and vice versa. If you'd like to see the sample, go right ahead. As you can see, these guys are going to work the nights. And if you find a problem with the pattern, then you can adjust the pattern, view the sample again, make the corrections, and only save it when you're done. Now, as I'm waiting for this to save, I'll mention that you can click on any of your existing schedule rotations, modify them, view the samples, and resave them. So everything that we're doing in here is not etched in stone. It's just, you're going to use the samples to make sure that you're getting the patterns right. Now, for the next group, let's say Squad C, they might work the same exact pattern and days that A worked, but of course they're going to work that beginning a different date. So for Squad C, consider clicking on an existing squad with the same start date, and again, this is under the assumption that Squad A and Squad C are working the same exact pattern, the same exact shifts. They're just doing it, 4 days later. So since Squad A started on Monday, then I would have to assume that C would start on Friday. Let me get that description in there. But the rotation below and the shifts that it's tied to are the same. So again, if we want to view the sample just to make sure that we're on the right track, it's a very nice tool, very helpful. So using that, going in and just adjusting the days, you'll see that by changing the code, it creates a brand new entry. So it's not like I'm overriding what I did before. Now for Squad D, these guys work the exact opposite shifts, same days, okay, same start date. I'll just view the sample again because we've been doing that for each one. And as long as everything looks good, you can click on the Save button. So while they're waiting for that to save, are there any questions on how to build anything from the simple Monday through Friday or Tuesday through Saturday schedule, or one like the 4 and 4 that we just created?
No, we were just talking. We initially we were thinking we would just make Squad A and B work days and C and D work nights, but
the label stays with the actual lieutenant, so he might be working days. Squad A may be on days now, but will be on nights eventually. So that's not gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like we were gonna say Squads A and B will always work days, Squad C and D will always work nights. But if the label of the squad is in sync with that particular shift, it's not gonna make a difference anyway because they rotate the nights anyway. So.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand.
So, like, if you have a 4 and 4 schedule, and 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 you have a 4 and 4 sched we were looking at saying, okay, squad A and B will always be like the daytime. You know, the 4 days on, 4 days off will be squad A, and then when they're off for those 4 days, squad B will be on days. However, the label squad A and squad B is specific to that particular lieutenant. And when that lieutenant goes to night, squad A will be from days, will actually go to night. So it's not relevant. It's you know, it's just something we were just discussing. It's not a big deal.
Okay. Okay.
Not a big deal.
All right. Now, based on what we've shown, have we covered all of the types of schedules that you're going to have to build?
The dispatchers, they work at 12-hour pitman.
Oh, okay. So actually very similar to what I removed, what I already had in the system.
Right.
Okay. Now, for how many dispatchers do you have?
Well, we have 5 full-time, and then we have a staff of part-timers, per diems, who work varying hours. They might work 4, 8, 12. They might just, they don't have a set schedule. They just kind of fill in as needed.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. So, and about, generally speaking, how many officers do you have on duty at any given time, or project that you'll have on these 12-hour shifts?
We're going to have 7 officers and 2 bosses on a shift to start. So
Okay.
9.
Okay. Do any of your officers, are any of them working as dispatchers? Do they have that capability? Do you do that?
No, we wouldn't be using that.
We wouldn't be? Okay. So my recommendation there is I would create the day and the night shift separate for the dispatchers. So just sort of what I was explaining before, how I had a PD days, and the reason why I did that was so that I can, set up like a communication days. I would consider doing the same thing, building the shifts exactly that way. Then it's just, again, it's a matter of setting the right work pattern. So I might have I don't know if the dispatchers are set up in squads as well, but, do like a dispatch squad A, and you should have enough to fit that in to your secondary code. So I'll just do one real quick here, dispatcher squad A or group A. So depending on what the start date for that pitman schedule is going to be, I'll just choose Monday, and I'll build that out till the end of 2020 like I did for the rest of my examples. Now below, it just might be, 2 on, 2 off, and, I don't have a communications day shift, but I'll just select the only one that I have here, just so you can get an idea of what the pattern would look like. Now, do the dispatchers switch over from days to nights, or are they steady?
Switch over.
They switch over. Okay, so, and I don't know how many cycles they actually spend doing the day before that happens, but if it's just one full cycle, then just add the other line for the night shift. Just like I'm doing here. So once that pattern cycles back, it would look like this. Okay, so that's how we build shifts as well as schedule rotations. Are there any questions on creating either one of those things at this time?
No. Perhaps this is an advanced question, but how do I switch the alternate hours? Like there's going to be a guy on the patrol shift that works 6 to 6, at least one guy, but he's still technically going to be PD days.
Yes, so once you have actually built the schedule rotations, this is something that's going to be covered in Class 5. So if you were to follow the classes in order, after this one, you're going to learn how to build your dashboard, which is very important because the dashboard is going to help you confirm that everyone is, in fact, on a schedule and that they are on the right one. So you definitely want to have one like this ready for you before you actually assign people. So that's class number 4. In class number 5, you're going to assign your employees to the rotations that you created. When that happens, you're going to learn that you're going to click on Add Employees to Existing Rotation. You're going to select the date range for when you want to assign them to the schedules. So using just the whole of the next calendar year as an example, I'll set my date range. I will then select my employees. Now, you'll notice everyone in my department is assigned to groups called Squad A, B, C, D. These are not the rotations. These are the groups that they belong to. So I can use the group selection button over on the right to grab my Squad A guys, select all, and select enclose. So just making sure that, and I'm holding down my control button to do this, making sure that any portion of that person is highlighted, I'm going to assign them over to their squad. You'll notice there's an option to adjust the start and end times. You do not want to do this right now. The reason is if Squad A does end up moving from days to nights, then any times that you adjust here are going to affect both shifts. Now, if Squad A is constantly days, then that's cool, no problem there. Just enter the times for the people who are going to be working a little earlier than everyone else. And in fact, if you wanted to add the hours for everyone, you can do so. So by doing this, those hours will now be displayed next to the officer's name on the shift. Now, I'm just going to do this for a handful of guys so you can see what it looks like on the schedule. I won't do it for the whole year because then it'll just take us longer to sit here and wait for it to finish. So let's say I'm just going to do that for effective. I know the schedule doesn't even begin until the 16th. So let's go with that. Single day. Let's click on the Apply button. Now, the more employees you schedule, the longer the length that you're scheduling them will all affect how long that step takes. So let's exit out of the screen. Let's go to January 16th. And there's my day shift with the adjusted hours displayed to the right of their name.
Okay.
And so we'll be covering that in a little bit more detail during class number 5. But, you know, that's it. That, you know, if you're comfortable with the schedule rotations and you would like to take that next step, you can certainly do so.
All right, great. Thank you. So these videos are also on your YouTube page, right?
That is absolutely correct. I also wanted to mention that when you registered for this class, when you register for any of the classes, you receive a link to a document which provides you with screenshots and instructions on how to set up those items. So it's sort of a training aid to go along with each build session. So you might find that just registering for the class and getting that document might be enough for you, and you may feel comfortable building those things. If you run into any problems, you can always sign up for the help out sessions. Those are found on the same registration page as these classes, and so those help out sessions are there precisely for this reason. If you're trying to build your rotations, you're trying to assign people, and you just need one-on-one help, those are 45-minute sessions. And normally we can take care of just about anything in that period of time.
Gotcha. Okay. So when does that link come through for the screenshots? After the session is closed?
When you register for the class, you get it with the link that you use to get onto the class, but we send the link.
Review the materials?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And we actually send you another link after when we send you the video for the session, so you get it there as well.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Francisco. You have anything else, or that'll be it?
That is it for today.
All right, it sounds good. I appreciate your help.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.